Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1489B, and today's date is February 4th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Chaos is Their Tool, False Flags is Their Weapon. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview onto the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. It is with Jason Burak, and if you go over to YouTube and you type in X22 Report Spotlight, it will take you to the interview, or you can come over to the X22Report.com or NewSentinel.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the interview there. You can play it right on the site, or go to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we need to understand that on both sides, Republican, Democrats, there are those individuals that have been pushing their agendas. We have, McCain with the neocons. We have Democrats who are part of the deep state. There are some Republicans that are part of the deep state. It's all mixed. It's not just like, this group, that group. It's all mixed together, and there are certain individuals that are working together. And we need to understand that a lot of the government, there are a lot of bad people in there, non-elected bad people, elected bad people, and there are good people that are in government trying to do the right thing. But what we see right now is a lot of the bad people, they have a lot of control because they're non-elected, they're part of the intelligence community, the deep state, they're connected to the corporate media, and we see that they're pushing their own agendas. And they don't like this memo that is out there. They're calling it a conspiracy theory. They're saying that these individuals are trying to block the real Russian collusion investigation. They're trying to distract everyone from the Russian collusion investigation. Now, Mueller has been investigating for over a year right now, and he has absolutely nothing. And what this whole memo points out is that they got this warrant through fraud. And they don't like this right now. And they're trying to fight this any way they possibly can. And they're saying that the memo is very deeply misleading. It has a lot of errors. And they're going on and on and on. And we can see right now that they're trying to make it look like this memo was pushed out there to try to get Mueller off the case. Now, do I think Trump is going to fire Mueller? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's how he's going to approach this. He wants Mueller to finish. He wants Mueller to come up with absolutely nothing, to find absolutely nothing, and then use the other documentation. Now, I think what is happening here, and if we look at the actions of how they proceed with this, they want the deep state to continually use their propaganda. They want the deep state to continually come out and say, no, this is not true, it's a conspiracy, because all they need to do at that point is start to document facts. All they need to do is show documents with the facts to basically back up everything they're saying. And I think this is the approach that they're taking, and this is where they're headed. Now, very interestingly, we know that the Pfizer request to spy on Carter Page, it was based on the bogus Steele dossier created by Fusion GPS. And of course, that fact was hidden from the Pfizer court, because if they allowed that out there and they actually, said, where did you get this? Who paid for this? Where did it come from? The Pfizer court most likely would have rejected this. But we'll look at the Pfizer court in just a minute and what they really do here, because this court was not set up to be a real court where they're looking at real information. This was set up to allow individuals to spy on anyone. American people, those in government, judges. It was set up to say, oh, look, we have permission to do this. We have permission to do whatever we want because the Pfizer court said so. And they use the Pfizer court as their base of permission to do what they need to do. And if we go back in time, it's funny because Trump came out on March of 2017, said, is it legal for a sitting president to be wiretapping a race for president prior to an election, turned down by a court earlier? And he put a new low. And when we look at this, we can see that this whole thing was completely illegal. And back then, he was bringing it up because he has all the information. He knows what has been going on. He has the documentation. Even though they tried to clean it all up, the documentation still exists. You still can get it. Now, Glenn Greenwald is out there, and he's saying that the FISA court is a complete joke because the FISA court will approve the spying on Americans 99.8% of the time. And of course, the FISA court really doesn't need that much information. The FISA court is outside of the normal court system, and this once again was set up on purpose to give those individuals permission to do what they wanted to do, because this is what they always do. They always set up a body to say, well, this is a FISA court which is allowing us to do this. So it takes the blame off of them, and it makes everyone believe that there's a higher power that's giving them permission to do these things. Now, we know the Olympics are coming up February 9th, and we see that the drills have been called off between South Korea and the United States. And Trump now is speaking with South Korea and Japan prior to the Winter Olympics, because I think what he's saying and what he's talking about there is that be on guard, something might be happening in this area, because Henry Kissinger was out there, who is part of the deep state, saying that a preemptive attack against North Korea is a strong possibility, because this is exactly what the deep state wants to do. They want something to happen during this period of time to get us into war. And they've been trying to push this all along. Now, out in Syria, we can see there was a Russian jet, an Su-25. It was shot down, and there's actual video of this because they knew exactly what they were going to do. They wanted this out there to show that the rebels are able to bring down a Russian jet. Now, the question is, how and where did the rebels get man-pads, man-portable air defense systems? And they fired one at an Su-25, and they brought it down. Now, we need to understand is that man-pads, they were issued to the Kurds. And this was part of the weapons dump that was used to give the soldiers, at the time Obama was in office, to allow the Kurdish army to have the weapons they need to protect and to defend their area, and then eventually split apart from Syria. The U.S. was also paying for these soldiers their salaries. Trump came in and stopped the payment of all these soldiers and said, we're not doing this anymore. Weapons delivery, that has ended. And we also know that these individuals get man-pads covertly. Now, again, the Kurds, most likely all these weapons that were delivered to the Kurds got into the hands of the paid mercenaries, which is the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, the rebels, the Syrian Democratic Forces. It's all one and the same. They receive these man-pads, and I'm sure covertly they've had these things all along, because we've had reports back in January citing that the U.S. had provided man-pads to the Kurds earlier in the month under the agreement between Washington and the YPG. And we also know, going back even further, that there were man-pads delivered to the Syrian rebel groups way back, and they included man-pads. So this is how they receive them, and they use them to push Russia a little bit further. And Russia saying that they're going to be investigating this. They're going to be looking into this. They have UAVs, space surveillance in the area to see where all of this is happening, how it happened, and so on. Now, the Pentagon is out there saying that, hey, we've never equipped the allies in Syria with surface-to-air weapons. Well, the intelligence agencies, those who were working with the paid mercenaries, and this is the cabal, the deep state, they supplied all the weapons to the paid mercenaries to go after Assad, and if that didn't work, to split up the Kurdish region, and they were supplying the weapons, they were supplying everything at one time, but the whole thing is falling apart. Now, they tried to provoke Russia into doing something, maybe attacking the U.S. soldiers or anything like that, attacking the area. Yes, Russia came in and bombed the rebel area, but once again, they're trying to provoke Russia into firing at the U.S. So this could make headline news where we can say we're off and running to war. This is what Turkey tried to do way back when they shot down a Russian jet. They tried to push us into war, but once again, Putin doesn't react in the way that they want him to. He doesn't come out and say, okay, now we're going to attack Turkey, or here we're going to attack the U.S., because he understands what they are doing. He understands what they're trying to pull. Now, over the time that the U.S. was in Syria, and this is the deep state, the cabal, where they were trying to push their agenda, they set up around 14 different U.S. military bases within Syria. And you can see why it's very difficult just to push the cabal out of this area, because there's 14 U.S. bases in there. And again, these are intelligence agencies. This is the Syrian Democratic Forces. These are the individuals that are following the deep state, and they were setting all of this up to take control of Syria. And now we have Turkey, we have Russia, we have China, we have the U.S. trying to push the deep state out of all of these areas. And it is very, very difficult to push the deep state to a place where they say, okay, we're going to be leaving this area, because they have been pushing their agenda for such a long time. They're just not going to give up. Now that we see the memo is out there, now that we see investigations going on, now that we see the Middle East is falling, and they really have nothing that they can use to keep the Middle East, and we can see the Kurdish region that is not going to be splitting apart from Syria, they are going to resort to an event. There's no way around this at this point. Yes, they're going to push their propaganda. They're going to push their conspiracy theories. They're going to try to convince the American public. And what we're seeing is they want the cabal, the deep state, to use as much propaganda as they possibly can. Because the more they use, the more they look stupid. Because all you have to do is present the truth, the facts. Once the truth and the facts are out there, the propaganda disappears. You can't defend it. The truth can stand up to anything. Propaganda can't. This is why the Russian collusion story fell apart so quickly. This is why the Steele dossier fell apart so quickly. Because all you need to do is show facts, the proof, and show the truth. And this is the problem they're having. Now, this is just the first phase of showing the memo, getting them started. Let them push the propaganda out there. Let them lie as much as they possibly can, because all they need to do, and remember, they have all the information. Remember, they have where the money flowed to. They have who signed what. They have the reasoning behind all of it. They have the documentation. They have the emails. All of this spying can be worked and used on them. And that is what is happening right now. This is why they were trying to clean up everything. That's why they were mopping up when Obama was leaving. This is why those people were making sure their records were protected. No, they weren't making sure their records were protected. They were trying to get rid of the records, trying to hide them, bury them deep so no one could find them. But again, you have the NSA. You have all the information, all the recordings. Everything that they've used on everyone else is being used on them now. And they know this. They realize this. And they're worried and afraid. And they're going to push their propaganda, and facts are going to start flowing out. And this is the part where we need to be a little bit nervous about. Because once the facts break down their propaganda, and they lose the upper hand, which they think they have right now, which they really don't, that's when they're going to push their next event. Maybe even before that. Because we can see right now, no one is buying what they are saying. I mean, they're going to continually push this out there. But Mueller has been in there for over a year, and he can't find anything. I mean, he has someone lying to him? That's all he has? The whole investigation is based on a lie. The FBI lied. The president lied. The Department of Justice lied. Think about how many lies there are. So the whole thing is falling apart. And this is why you can see, and this is why Q has mentioned this, that a major false flag might be used, and I think it will be used, to shift the narrative away from all of this, because they know what's coming down the pike. They know facts and real evidence is going to flow out, slowly but surely. And you don't want to push too much of this out there too quickly. You want them to use propaganda. you want them to lie and then take their lies and say, well, here are the facts. Look, they just lied again. Fake news. Look, they just lied again. Fake news. And this is what Trump and the administration, those patriots in government right now, this is what they're doing. They're doing this on purpose. And you can see that each time they mention it, they back it up with facts. Look, I was being spied on. Of course, the corporate media was out there saying, ha ha ha, look at this. He's making this thing up. And all of a sudden it turned out to be absolutely true. And you can see that each one of these things that they're doing here is to box the corporate media into a corner to show that they are lying about almost everything. And the only way to do that is to make them lie. Make them lie as hard as they possibly can, use as much propaganda as they possibly can, and then back everything else, the truth, with facts. And then everyone can see what they have done. This is why they don't mention the Russian collusion that much anymore. They died it down a little bit, they bring it back a little bit, but they're not like, yes, Russian collusion, every so often they have to bring it back to make everyone still believe this is happening, but you can see with the facts, it's being knocked down at every single turn, and it's getting more and more difficult. So we can expect something major to happen with the Olympics coming up, Super Bowl is coming up today, and we can see there's many other things happening all around the world, and we don't know where this next event's going to be, but whatever it's going to be, it's going to have to be big. It's going to have to be something that's going to clog the news for weeks on end to shift the entire narrative away from all of this. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.